Almost every channel has this horoscope running in the morning. People are calling them. The dependence on this supernatural, whatever occult, has always fascinated me. My teacher used to say, "You give me any film in the world, even the most artsy film, I can tell you it still follows an act structure." I also feel excited how people will react to this, because it's planted from some other time to contemporary time.
Welcome to the Hindu.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to always talk with you.
Thank you so much.
We are here to talk about your new film, an out-and-out comedy, Sarangapani Jathakam, which also coincidentally comes on the 20th year of your career. 20 years since
20 years
released.
Yeah. So it's a quite a journey actually. This is my 12th film. In 20 years I've made 12 films including this. So and I've always tried to do different. I never repeated the genre, so I was trying to do take chances with what I want to do, that kind of playing with genres and see what I enjoy doing, and constantly trying to challenge myself. But comedy has always been one of my favorite genres, and it's also one of the most difficult genres, one of the most misunderstood genres in the world, I feel, because you rarely see comedies getting top awards. Even in Oscars, I think they created a separate comedy musical or whatever. So writing a comedy, getting the right actors for it, all this is a very big challenge. And after Ami To Me, which I made in 2017, I wanted to make a comedy because I'm seeing we are moving into action zone a lot. Our mainstream cinema is heavily action film oriented now, and we have too much excessive violence. A lot of people, a lot of action sequences involve a lot of bloodshed and all that. And I also felt that sometimes the audiences are also becoming a little desensitized to it. It's like a movie. Let people get killed. It's okay. So I was watching a lot of those films, and sometime during conversations with family and friends, they were saying, we don't have too many films to sit together and watch, like as a family, just go and sit and enjoy the humor or the plot-driven comedy, not real kind of comedy, not joke-based comedy, not what you call incident-based comedy, but something that humorous writing that runs through a narrative, And that's when this idea of Sarangapani Jathakam, which had been there for a while, came to me, and I started developing it. And unexpectedly, I met Krishna Prasad Garu, who's been asking me, we haven't done anything after Sammohanam, why don't we do something together? So I just pitched it to him, and he really liked it. So that's how the film started.
This is your third collaboration with
Yes. After Gentleman and Sammohanam, this is the third one, and it's like a home banner for me. So whenever I want to pitch something really nice, personal, I can pitch it to him. And most of the times he took it up. So Gentleman, of course, he brought it to me, but Sammohanam and Sarangapani Jathakam I brought. So it's a comfort zone for me, and we do our own jobs. I do my thing and he does his thing. So it's a nice thing to come back to Devi movies also, like a third time. And it's come out. I'm very happy with the way. And basically the idea was to create a film where everybody can go, sit and have a good time, and let there be some meaning in it. And then walk back home with something about it, with you, carrying it, rather than just, okay, I've seen 20 jokes. I had a good time. I'm going back home and I've forgotten it. No, I want people to go back, talk about a particular scene, of the politics of a particular scene, or the joke, why the joke was cracked. So it turned out to be that kind of a film. So that's what I'm most happy about.
Okay. Ami To Me was your last full-fledged comedy, if we can say so. Though Sammohanam also had some, comedy
all my films have some humor.
Yeah. That was a screwball comedy. Would it be right to call this like a bit of a social satire, just going by the teaser?
Definitely. It's not a screwball, definitely. It has farcical elements, definitely.
I
would say, no, this one.
This one also.
I would say this is actually a blend of Ashtachamma and Ami To Me.
Okay.
Like Ashtachamma is it kind of starts off as a romantic comedy, but becomes a proper farce. Ami To Me is, right, from the beginning, is a farce for me. Screwball comedy or farce, you can call it. But this film also has a bit of a romance, and it has a bit of conflict, romantic conflict. But it has both the elements of Ashtachamma and Ami To Me. As we come to the end of the film, it becomes like a bit like Ami To Me, a bit like farce, a bit like Ashtachamma's climax. Beginning, you have a lot of story, lots of characters. It has more characters probably than both Ami To Me and Ashtachamma. It's more of an ensemble piece, this one. So it is not screwball, but it has some elements of it, definitely. It has some elements of a romantic comedy. It has some elements of screwball and farce. But overall, it's actually the old-fashioned proper comedy. For me, the comedies of Kamal Hassan, I really like the Michael Madana Kamaraju, Panchantram, Sati Leelavati, and Brahmachari. All those films I really like. The writing, Crazy Mohan's writing in some of those films. Although I don't know Tamil, the dubbing versions could tell me how well the Tamil dialogue is written. And some of my Tamil friends would tell me, this is how the word is played. So I'm a huge fan of that kind of writing also. So it's like my fond tribute to all these writers like Janjala Garu, to Crazy Mohan, to Devi Narsaraj Garu, and Murlapudi Venkataraman Garu. All these people that I really admire. And of course, abroad, like Peter Sellers, Woody Allen, these wonderful comedy writers who made great films. So it's like I wanted to bring back all that fondness through this film. So it has multiple elements of various comedic genres.
Okay. Was there like a triggering idea? I'm asking this because, going by the character that Priyadarshi is playing, how he believes so much so in astrology predictions and whether destiny can be completely charted. Was there
there's always a trigger because I had personal experience of people telling me things that actually happened. And I'm not a big believer. I'm not someone who always checks the muhurtams and all that. But I had a friend who actually is a palmist, so to say. I mean, he's interested in palmistry, and he had told me a couple of things which actually happened. And since then, it's been a mystery to me. What is this? Is this like weather forecast? Is it like you gather information about people born in certain stars or whatever times, and then are there patterns emerging which you can predict? Or how does it happen? And I also saw that almost every channel has this horoscope running in the morning. People are calling them. The dependence on this supernatural, whatever, occult, whatever, intervention has always fascinated me. How common people really look to this for help. Without dismissing, I just wanted to explore it, but also deal with how it can actually dependence on it and a superstitious adherence to it can cause all kinds of even mental collapse. People might lose their sense of rationale and do supremely idiotic things. So out of that, I wanted to generate humor, and but the idea is to kind of subtextually throw light on how we have sometimes become slaves to certain possibilities and ideas, and as predicted by somebody, and then blindly we go ahead and do that, hoping that would make life better for us. So it is, you started off by saying it is kind of a social satire, which a social satire that adopts the genre conventions of, let's say, the screwball and romantic comedy and farce. But at the heart of it, I would say definitely it's a social satire. Yeah.
I see. Right from the first film that you directed, Grahanam was Chalam Garu's short story which you adapted, and then Ashtachama was also you acknowledged Oscar Wilde for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been a journey of acknowledging the original source material, but adapting it in such a way that even if somebody who has not read any of these works watches a film, it's so rooted in the native culture, the Telugu culture. How do you achieve this balance in your writing process?
No, the idea is always, first when I read any original piece, I try to identify what is not working for me, culturally as well as in terms of characters. There are some very time-specific, for example, Ashtachama, Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, it is set in a certain period in England. And it had many elements where he was attacking modernism, he was attacking certain tendencies modernist tendencies and all that, which may not apply to our society. But there are certain elements which are the satirical elements of Wilde. I could adapt the spirit of it. I could bring to satirize Telugu cinema or certain kinds of feudal Telugu cinema that we have, where we celebrate feudal values. So those are the things I kind of. So those are the points I try to identify. Then I will see what are the most adaptable social situations. Like for example, there is a priest. Let's say in Importance of Being Earnest, I think it's Chasuble or something his name, and then I made him into a priest, like kind of a priest of Bharani Garu's character.
Okay.
But once that character is born, the inspiration stops there. Now I'm trying to explore the world of this man who's born out of that inspiration, but he belongs to, and then I try to figure out how to place him, and then I write backstories of each character saying, okay, he must have been born here. Well, the parents must be like this, like that, like that. So I just try to use, like, probably reverse engineering, I don't know if we can call it, take it from there and write backwards into a social context. So that way what happens is that, and of course I can choose social structures that I'm familiar with or I know closely. So I try to place them in those situations, and automatically characters have a magical quality of, they're like plants, you put like seeds, you plant them and they start growing, and then they themselves create their own features, and sometimes actors contribute small things. So the whole once the trigger happens, I'm constantly choosing what works for the local culture, for my culture. What doesn't, I mercilessly I throw it away, although sometimes some of it is very good actually, but you can't, because it'll not work and the audience will feel alienated. So it's all about, can I play with language the way Wild or XYZ played? How much of inspiration can I do, and how much of it can I actually place in a tangible social situation? If we can take that care, that's work. It takes about, majority of the writing time is taken by that actually. The writing the dialogue and all that is pretty easy, but how to adapt that part? So my concern would be, what are the best parts that I can, without spoiling the structure and the original spirit of the novel or a short story or a play, whichever I adapt. So that is my preliminary concern. And then there is this, it sounds a bit romantic when you said, but characters and stories have a way of growing.
That's something which even established novelists and writers talk about.
It sounds too mysterious and fanciful when you say that, but it is true. If you're actually a writer, you will see that your characters sometimes decide the way they want to go. They will not bend into some other way. So that part, you trust that instinct, you trust that magic, that characters, that they will grow. And then most of the time it helped me in developing characters effortlessly, because they were placed in the right context. And then when it's on the page, when you go to the shoot and the actor suddenly brings something magically, like Bharani Garu brought that entire brinjal thing, Vankai Pachadi thing. Shall we do it? I said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then it added a lot of color and texture to the whole character. He would come up with ideas like, you're doing ironing, let's do that Chembu iron. I'll talk to, shall we do it? Yeah, that's a great. They are so localized, they are so culturally rooted, and they're so identifiable for an audience. So those are things sometimes actors bring to the table. Some of it is written in the script, and they simply take it from there and take it to next level. So it's a collaborative process at that level. But fundamentally, the material, how interesting it is, will it appeal in terms of aesthetics, in terms of culture, in terms of its social outlook to a contemporary audience? That is the question I ask myself before adapting.
And this is your 12th film in 20 years. And all of your films have been written and directed by you, including the screenplay, which is actually a very good turnaround time if you look at it.
It takes a lot of time to write.
I remember during Amitumi, you said that the first draft you wrote it, that was one of your fastest writing process in about 20 days.
20, right? Absolutely.
So is there a method to the madness of writing? What's your process?
No, it changes from film to film. Amitumi, because it is such a compact story. I wanted to adapt R.B. Sheridan's Duenna, which is a play, and I read it and I thought this will make a great story for us. But I also felt it cannot be a long film. It looks on page to me like it can last 22 hours. If I can make it last 2 hours, fantastic. But I shouldn't stretch it more. So it is so structurally so well written, the original play, that I didn't have to work too much on structure. So I just had to bring the characters and place them in the right context, and then it started writing itself. So I knew first act, second act, every act was already in the play. But the whole play is not useful for me, only some characters, some sequences. So I took the structure, the template was ready, then I started writing the scenes. So it was very fast for me. But sometimes the structure of, like, say, Astachama, Impulsive Earnest is not the same as what was in the film. So that process takes time. Anything, if you're a writer director, like somebody said, it starts with a white page. It literally starts with, you say, fade in and and then you just write and write and write, and writing is an extremely lonely process compared to directing, where I know directors who are helped a lot by cinematographers, editors, but writing, you cannot, nobody, unless you are one of those writers who allots things to no comedy, you write the comedy. It's not that. If you are a writer properly, then it takes about 6 months to 6 months to write a proper screenplay if you write well, fast, disciplined manner. But out of that, at least 4 months is rewrites. You write cancelling, rewriting, writing a lot of garbage and then throwing out things. So the process is extremely laborious actually, and many people actually they talk about writer's block and all that at that point, which is, there are techniques to overcome that. You can just read, meet people, and one of the best things I found out is to read when you have a writer's block. The process is laborious, but somewhere you hit the sweet spot, as they say. Then it takes off. So there is no set speed for writing a script. Sometimes there have been cases. Janjalagar once told me he wrote the dialogue of a film, I forgot which one it is, in 3 nights. Wow. Just finished the whole thing. And some might take a year. So, but the process is the same. You have to have a right. For me, at least, I don't believe in. Now I see a lot of interviews where people say, "Oh, don't worry about 3-act structure. Just sit and write. Just let it flow. Writing is important." For me, you need to know the rules before you break them.
Break it.
Classical structure is not easy. It's been arrived at after tremendous amount of trial and error, tremendous amount of research, and people, some of the greatest writers have written in that structure. So don't simply say, "Oh, I'm a creative person, I don't believe." And most of those films I see that you can clearly see the guy is clueless, basically. Sometimes it might work, but the challenge that my teacher used to say is, you give me any film in the world, even the most artsy film, I can tell you it still follows an act structure.
I see.
So first, I just try to fit into a certain structure. Structure is very important for me. I put it in the structure. Is it structurally coherent? I feel good about my films is even films that worked or didn't work, structurally they will be in place. I might faltered in depicting an emotion or developing a certain character or taking it to the right, maintaining a right pace or whatever it is. But structure is very important for me, that you have to, even now when I'm editing, I say to my editor, at the 15th minute, what is happening, you stop there. Is the inciting incident happening or not there? Or is it the 17th minute? Is it the 13th minute? Sometimes it might happen in the first minute only. But I don't usually like to take my inciting incident to go back beyond 17th minute. That is my limit.
Okay.
I believe in structure, and I believe that in structure then you can play whatever you want. And sometimes you should break also. You can break structure also. But the process is one of putting, bricks together and give it a proper structure, then you jumble up whatever you want to do. So whether it's a comedy like Kami to Me, whether it is like Kami to Me is pretty easy because it had probably the easiest structures I've ever worked on. It has a beginning, a middle, a solid ending where everybody is gathering in the temple. Chaos unfolds. With minimal interventions in between, because it's also happening in a single day, that story.
Yeah.
Which is not always possible with all stories. So the process is one where you start from the scratch, build the structure, and then fill it with the characters, and that is all a process that we cannot always pin down.
Right.
It just happens, and certain craft related tools will help you. Like am I overwriting the dialogue? Am I underwriting the dialogue? Or am I writing too much of description? Stuff like that you have to get through experience. You just figure it out.
Would you say the foundation for your writing process itself stems from the screenplay writing course and the Master of Fine Arts you did at York University,
absolutely.
Toronto?
I mean, a lot of people, another thing, fancy thing they keep saying is, "Oh, you don't need to go to film school. You just need to pick up a camera and shoot." It's like saying, if you are passionate about becoming a surgeon, just pick up a knife and go into the surgery room. There is a craft. I'm not saying you should go to good film school. Not every film school will tell you how to do it, but there's nothing wrong in going to film school. I'm not saying it's compulsory, but everybody who has become a good filmmaker either had a mentor or had some schooling, at least unofficial schooling. Either like they watched a lot of films, or they interacted with good filmmakers, or they apprenticed some good filmmaker, whatever. Some schooling is very important. And I also believe strongly that you can learn technology. Even these days, kids are making films on phones,
smartphones.
But aesthetics is something that you can only learn formally. I feel you should go to film school, watch the greatest of cinema, read about. You may not follow any of that. You don't believe probably in film theory, but it's good to read. It's good to read the history of cinema. It's good to watch the great classics of Telugu cinema and the world cinema. Then you choose your aesthetics. It's like a churning pot from out of which you discover your own point of view, your own aesthetic, your own. How do you want to tell your stories to the audience? Comes from all this churning. It just doesn't come by just picking up a camera and shooting. We don't operate in vacuum, right? As human beings, we are in a context. We are in a historical, political, social, cultural context. So, and there is a history to that. There is something that you can, you have to build on it. So I personally feel that for me, screenwriting foundation really helped me, and then I was also taught you can break it whenever you want. But it always it's like saying, no, in cricket they say go back to the basics.
Right.
Whenever I'm in some writing problem, when I'm hitting a roadblock, I go back to my basics and say, okay, let me try and fix this. Then I can again take chances. So it really helped me big time.
Okay. Coming back to Sarangapani Jathakam, is this also inspired by literary work? Would you be able to disclose it now, or do we have to wait
it
for
is
the
definitely,
screen?
But I want to put it on screen.
Okay.
So, but it is definitely inspired by a literary work, good one, which has been my favorite for a long time. So, and again, I did the same process. I took the core idea, but I wrote a lot. I remember when I wrote Ashtamma, and when I took the writer's credit, somebody said, "Why? How can you take writer's credit? Because it's written by Oscar Wilde." I said, "Okay, you tell me these characters, Ram Babu, 2-3 other characters." I said, "Where did they come from? Wilde didn't write, right?" So I also have to be very conscientious about why I'm taking the writer's credit. I'm creating something along with the original material. So similarly, this film, I've taken the core story and idea, and then 2-3 incidents, but then I had to write an entire story which is totally rooted in our times, which are very different from the times of the story. So I again played the same, applied the same philosophy of writing, and it is one of my all-time favorite works. But I also feel excited how people will react to this, because it's planted from some other time to contemporary time. Okay. But it's sat really well with our times. So I'm very excited about it.
Venela Kishore, Tanikela Barni Garu, they've all been collaborating with you for quite some time. Same with Naresh Garu as well. But Priyadarshi and Rupa are new entrants into your world. Priyadarshi, I remember saying when the film was announced, he said at University of Hyderabad, he was a student and you were a guest lecturer.
Absolutely.
And it's been like a long time, and it's like a full circle coming together to work with you. One question is, how did it take so long? Because it looks like you would have collaborated earlier.
No, it's just that I think the right project didn't come through, or I was watching him closely. I loved him in Pelli Choopulu, I loved him in Malaysiam, and there's a beautiful film called Mail. I keep telling about
Tambalapalli Mail.
Yeah, it's Uday Gurala made it. It's on AHA, I think. He was very good in it. The film is also very good, actually. He's very good in it. Then I saw, of course, Balagam. And I had been thinking, I want to work with him. And then there are all these things, about, okay, can we put him as a lead? These market considerations will come now. People will say, okay. But then I thought, when this story came, I said, no, this has to go to, I don't care about anything else, that she is the right person. Because I had observed his acting style and how he is so subtle with humor and all that. And then I approached him. And of course, he was very excited. I was also excited. And he's a completely different actor among all the actors I worked with. He's one of the actors who when you actually see him perform, you may think, okay, he could do probably a little more. But then when you're at the edit table, you find so many options. I was just telling that to my editor also. So it's now you discover the performance in the edit. And so he has this nice ability to embed his performance is so many subtle things which you may not notice with naked eye. But the camera can capture it, and in edit, those pauses, those spaces, are very good to build a particular scene's emotion. So it's a joy working with him. And he's done a fabulous job in this film. I'm sure people are going to. And Rupa is I liked her in Uma Maheshwara Ugrarupa. And I always like casting Telugu heroines especially. And this film required a very fast speaking Telugu girl. I mean, the dialogue has a lot of give and take and all that. So I really liked her performance, and I met her, and I chose her without too much discussion, because her previous film was an audition for me, so I didn't even have to audition. So these two are new, and the rest of them they were all so good. And one nice thing about this film is none of them has played a role that they had played earlier in any of my films. All the characters they play. Harsha is again a great discovery for me personally, because he's a fabulous actor anyway. So all these people have done things that they have not done before in my films, like Kishore or Harsha or Bharani Garu did a totally different role. Srinivas Avasarala, you would have seen in the trailer, he looks completely different.
Oh yes, it took me a minute to identify
figure out. Yeah. So it's great fun to bring all these talented comedy actors with completely different approach to humor. They have their own ways of styles of doing it, with none of them overlapping with the other, but all of them coming together and doing a film where the characters really come to life. So that part is it's a great thing. But I hope, especially with Darshi and me, this is the beginning of a new friendship and a new collaborative journey. Yeah.
Looking forward to watching the film.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.